Hey, it's Matt Haynes, and today I'm going to review some propellers for the DJI Mini 2 drone, more specifically the Master Airscrew Stealth, says right there, upgrade propellers for the DJI Mini 2. Now, did I break some propellers and I need to replace them? No, I did not. Did I need quieter propellers, stealthy propellers, so I could sneak up on somebody? No, I did not. However, we are going to talk about the stealth aspect of that in a little bit. No, the reason I got them is because they're blue. I like blue. On Master Airscrew's website, they talk about a lot of advantages for these propellers. First of all, the stealth aspect. You'll get a 2 decibel reduction in volume, which really isn't actually that big of a deal in terms of sound, if you know anything about sound, but we're gonna check it out. We're gonna measure these things. They're more efficient, which means you get an extra minute of flying time. Okay. And there's a couple other things too, more power, more altitude, etc. But also they're blue. And they do, of course, come in other colors as well. So, as I mentioned before, I'm doing the upgrade because I just want a little bit of color pop, but you know, if there's other advantages too, great. Now in the box you get 8 propellers, 4 of which are normal direction and 4 of which are reverse direction, because 2 of the motors on the drone go the opposite direction, so you have to put them on the right way. You also get a screwdriver and you get a bunch of screws, and all the screws have a little bit of Loctite or some other brand of thread locking compound on them, and this will keep those screws in place and not have them fly off in the middle of a flight. There's a little bit of a tricky problem though when you're trying to measure and compare something like this, because the propellers, they claim that they're quieter, but you can only have 1 set of propellers on the drone at a time. It's not like you can just compare them in real time. And what I noticed is that there are a couple other reviews of these propellers on YouTube, but nobody seems to have been very methodical about how they compared the original with the new ones. In fact, the reviews I saw, basically someone just put the new propellers on, launched the drone and went, yeah, that sounds quieter. But here's the thing, there's a real opportunity for unconscious bias to sneak in there, because you've paid money for something and it says it's quieter. You're gonna tell yourself that it's quieter even if it's not. So if you don't measure carefully, you don't really know. But I set out to measure carefully. And so what I did, first of all, I taped off things, because the distance between the sound source and the microphone is so important, because if you change that distance, you're gonna get volume changes that have nothing to do with what you're testing. So I put the drone down, I put a piece of tape there, I put the camera down, piece of tape there for the camera, because I'm using the onboard microphone in the camera. And I even got a tape measure out and measured that distance as well, just so I know that I can duplicate that when I have the new propellers on. Okay, I'm gonna start up the motors for the drone with the original propellers, and let's take a listen. Okay, let's take off the old propellers and put on the Master Airscrew Stealth propellers and see how they perform. I placed the camera and the drone in the exact same places as I did before, using that tape, as reference points, of course. And I made sure also to use the same volume settings and also to use the same microphone, because of course when you're recording volume and testing volume, you want to make sure you're using the same settings. All right, let's take a listen. So how do these compare to the original DJI propellers in terms of sound volume? Well, hold up. I just put my fancy new blue propellers on my Mini 2, so give me 5 seconds to show them off to the neighborhood. Let's compare the pre-takeoff idling sounds of the different propellers first. So this first one up is the original DJI propellers. Okay, now we have the Master Airscrew propellers. Before we talk about volume, I do notice right away that the pitch or frequency of the two sets of propellers is different. The Master Airscrew propellers have a higher pitch. But hey, let's listen to both sets of propellers again. Now, we can also compare the volumes of the takeoff because at least the drone is starting in the same place. First, I'll play you the DJI propellers, and then I'll play you the Master Airscrew propellers. Now, you will notice some wind rumble, but it's not actually wind rumble, it's propeller wash. In other words, the propellers are so forceful that the wind from them is overwhelming the dead cat wind filtering on my microphones. So I'm hearing a pitch or frequency difference, yes. What I'm not hearing though is the volume difference between the two propeller sets. Just to be sure, I did an audio analysis on the recordings of both sets of propellers in their idle mode, and the number to pay attention to here is the one called loudness because it gives an overall sense of the volume level for each test. The number barely changes between them at all. I did a little research on human hearing, and it turns out that most people can barely hear a change of 3 dB. That is the lower limit of human perception when it comes to volume changes. Now, while I do subscribe to the notion that some people will be able to hear a smaller difference, regular folks like you and me are probably not going to notice a change. What does this mean? It means that Master Airscrew's claim that they're reducing volume by 2 dB is something that you and I can't even hear. And I'm certainly not hearing a volume difference between the two propeller sets. How other reviewers were able to claim they're hearing a significant volume reduction, it blows my mind. And I am really bothered that the box says stealth on it. I mean, that is a really big claim considering the results. Are they taking advantage of the drone community? What do you think? If I had bought these propellers because I had thought they were going to make my drone quieter, I would be sorely disappointed. Fortunately, I only bought them because of the color. If you own a DJI Mini 2 or a similar drone, you probably didn't buy it just to accessorize it with pretty colors. You probably bought it because it's got an amazing camera. But taking drone videos and shooting cinematic stories with your drone footage is actually harder than it seems. The good news is I've made a video just for you that will help you tell better cinematic stories with your drone, even if the propellers aren't blue. So click here and I'll see you on the other side.